Donald Trump continues to be a source of controversy both here at home and on the world stage, and it's something that everyone can see. While he tries to present himself as a skilled dealmaker and global negotiator, the reality is quite different. What he truly seeks isn't diplomacy or progress. It's constant praise and validation. That craving for approval seems to drive so much of his behavior. And today, during his meeting with President Zelensky, that desire for admiration didn't go the way he hoped. Trump wanted glowing words of support, but instead, Zelensky pushed back, even challenging him directly during their meeting. We're going to break down exactly what happened in that exchange and what it means for Trump's image abroad. But before we dive in, if you enjoy this kind of coverage and want to help us continue bringing you independent analysis, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out and allows us to keep doing this work. Now, let's take a look at what Donald Trump focused on today. His latest round of attacks and misinformation directed at Democrats, and how that contrasts with what actually happened in this high-stakes meeting.
Finally end this war like they did with the war in the Middle East? And
I think right now the Democrats are really damaged, mentally damaged. They want to take $1.5 trillion with a T, $trillion and give it to people that invaded our country. They came into our country illegally from prisons, from mental institutions, gang members. They want to give them health care and take it away from our citizens. We're not going to do that. $1.5 trillion they want to destroy our health care system. We're not going to let that happen.
Now, it's clear that Donald Trump is feeling especially frustrated right now. And it's not hard to see why. Tomorrow marks what's expected to be the largest anti-Trump protest in history. No King's Day. I hope many of you have already signed up or are planning to take part. In response, Trump seems to be lashing out, not only spreading false attacks and misleading claims about Democrats, but also using increasingly aggressive language aimed at protest organizers and anyone speaking out against him. He's trying to paint these groups as villains or as part of some grand conspiracy, calling them funded opposition or paid agitators. Let's be clear. That's simply not true. People are standing up and speaking out because they care about their country, their rights, and their future, not because they're being paid to do so. But as usual, Donald Trump couldn't resist turning back to his trademark exaggerations, once again bragging about accomplishments that don't quite line up with reality. Let's take a look at one of the most recent claims, his supposed record on ending wars.
The statement is we have to get together. It's a very small group of people. It's the president, and the president. Okay, 3 presidents. And I'm the mediator president. And I'm mediating not an easy situation. It should be easy, but it's a lot easier when people understand each other, and when they get together, and when they like each other. We don't necessarily have that situation as far as like is concerned. Maybe it can turn around, maybe it can. But in the meantime, we'll have them keep a little bit of distance, and we're going to see if we can get it done.
So apparently, we're up to 9 wars now, at least according to Donald Trump. The number keeps changing every time he talks about it. One day it's 7, the next it's 8, and suddenly it's 9. It's as if he's just pulling new conflicts out of thin air to sound impressive. Recently, he even mentioned a so-called peace deal between Iran and Pakistan, claiming credit for resolving a conflict that, well, never actually existed. But hey, if you're trying to pad your record, you've got to get creative with the math, right? But before we dive into President Zelensky's take on Trump's so-called negotiating skills, let's take a closer look at something even more surprising. Donald Trump, seemingly unaware of the secret military actions reportedly taking place in Venezuela.
Venezuela, there are survivors from your latest boat strike. What happens to those survivors?
Well, I'll ask Marco to discuss that possibly.
Yeah, it's well known there's an ongoing narco-terrorist operation the United States has been conducting As far as details of any recent strikes, we're not prepared here to announce all those details, but you'll get that information here very shortly.
And how are there survivors when these are meant to be lethal attacks?
Yeah, again, I mean, we're undertaking these operations against narco-terrorists. That's what these are. These are terrorists. Let's be clear. And but as far as the details of any recent operations, when we are prepared to announce those, we will, as the president has consistently done. So you may get something on that later today.
Let me ask you, that was in a submarine, right? We attacked a submarine, and that was a drug-carrying submarine built specifically for the transportation of massive amounts of drugs, just so you understand. This was not an innocent group of people. I don't know too many people that have submarines, and that was an attack on a drug-carrying, loaded-up submarine. Yeah.
So you're telling me that this guy, the one who constantly needs to lean on his advisors like Marco, Hagseth, Besson, or Bondi, actually has his finger on the pulse of global affairs? Every major conservative outlet right now is praising Donald Trump for supposedly brokering a ceasefire agreement that, in reality, Israel hasn't officially agreed to and isn't following through on. Civilian casualties continue, and yet Donald Trump seems completely disconnected from what's happening, even in conflicts his own administration is reportedly involved in. So it really comes as no surprise that President Zelensky openly mocked the idea of Donald Trump being some kind of master negotiator or deal maker right here in this moment.
Right behind you. When we were in Israel with President Trump earlier in the week, we heard a lot about the difference in diplomacy between President Trump and President Joe Biden before him. What do you see as the biggest difference in diplomacy between President Trump and President Biden?
President Trump has a big chance now to finish this war. President Biden now is not the president, so he doesn't have a chance to finish this war. And President Trump is really showed for the world that he can manage ceasefire in the Middle East, and that's why I hope that he will do this, and we will also have such big success. For Ukraine, it's a big chance, and I hope that President Trump can manage it.
I would say the biggest difference is one is extremely competent and the other one is grossly incompetent.
Mr. President.
You can really see how much it frustrates Donald Trump that President Zelensky didn't immediately jump to criticize Joe Biden. It's almost like Trump was waiting for Zelensky to say, "Oh, Joe Biden's a terrible leader," or something to that effect, but instead, Zelensky turned it right back on him. Essentially, Zelensky's message was, "Why are we talking about Joe Biden? He's not the president right now. My people are in crisis. Maybe focus on that instead." And that subtle pushback completely threw Trump off balance. Meanwhile, one of Trump's media allies from Mike Lindell's network, yes, the My Pillow Guys channel, tried to press Zelensky into praising Trump and suggesting he make concessions to Putin. But Zelensky didn't take the bait. He made it clear that Ukraine shouldn't have to give up anything and that Putin's position is weaker than ever. Which brings us to Trump's latest comments. Instead of standing with Ukraine, he went on the attack again, criticizing Zelensky and refusing to authorize the delivery of Tomahawk missiles that Ukraine desperately needs.
Continues using similar cruise missiles like Caliber and
Yeah. Who are you with? Who are you with? You're Ukraine?
Yeah.
Good.
But Russia continue even using the cruise missiles and also nuclear-capable ballistic missiles in Ukraine since 2022. So do you consider providing Ukraine with the Tomahawk or similar missiles as an opportunity to equalize the possibilities of Ukraine and Russia and push Moscow to the negotiation table?
Sure. We're going to be talking about that. That's why we're here. Okay? Fair question. Exactly as he told you to say it. But we're going to be talking about it. Okay? Yeah, please.
So, despite what he might claim, Donald Trump hasn't been nearly as engaged in global affairs as he wants people to believe. During his recent appearance at the United Nations, he even seemed to change his position on the ongoing conflict, suddenly referring to Russia as a paper tiger. And here's what's really telling. Trump recently admitted that he's only now beginning to understand the real military and economic situation in this war. That means, for all these months he's been promising that he alone could end the conflict, he didn't actually grasp what was happening on the ground. Now he's trying to echo what many experts and even some Republicans have been saying all along, that Russia is losing ground, that Ukraine continues to resist and expose their weaknesses, and that with even modest support, the U.S. could help its ally defend against aggression. But instead of standing firm against authoritarianism, Trump falls for flattery. Anyone who praises him or sends him symbolic gestures of affection seems to win his sympathy instantly. And that, honestly, shows weakness. The truth that Donald Trump is showing clear signs of weakness, both at home and on the world stage. And that weakness extends beyond foreign policy. He's now using his influence to intimidate critics and stifle protest, even here in the United States. In fact, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker just called him out directly for it.
Well, very plainly, it's clear that Donald Trump has diminished capacity, which I think is sad, that the people around him are not getting him help, and instead they're just taking advantage of him. And that's what Stephen Miller is. You can tell, his rhetoric is so out of bounds. And then we know that he's the one who is advising Kristi Noem at DHS. He's the one who's advising Tom Homan, who's the kind of immigration czar, deportation czar. And of course, he's the spokesperson for this entire endeavor, including about deploying National Guard into cities. So, he seems like a dangerous individual, and he has the power of the presidency because the president isn't reining him in. And so that's why I'm talking about Stephen Miller.
I refuse to let this false narrative from the right that Donald Trump is some kind of peace president go unchallenged. We're going to keep calling it out every single time right here on this channel. If you want to support that mission, make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I will see you soon.